Everybody, thanks for watching. And just a quick reminder that the Powers That Came to Be is now available, as well as 2022. Today will be the last day. In fact, a few more hours, the time will be up for you guys to purchase it for $8.99 plus tax. So this will be the last chance you can get it for this price. It will go back to regular price after this. So make sure you guys take advantage. As well, Merkabah catalog will also be ending in a few hours. Make sure you guys take advantage of this as well. So I want to get into this video. February 1st, people are already posting Black History Month stuff up. So a lot of questions always come up with, the Bible, biblical religion. And it's a lot of things people don't realize when it comes to just understanding how important it is that we, really pay attention to critical race theory and why getting rid of, just a little bit of Black history that's out is important. So we don't know how far this whole thing is going to go with critical race theory. And are they going to continue to teach Black history? So what will Black History Month entail? Will they just get rid of it, from the schools entirely, and we'll just see little things on TV here and there? Besides obvious reasons why, history is important, the history that's being told, and ask ourselves if that's history that we want to, we want our kids to understand. We understand about slavery and Jim Crow and Dr. King and so on and so forth. We are not being shown that. It's not something that we're seeing, mainstream. So what we get for our main television programming is, BMF, stuff like that, which is content that you don't really want your kids to see. So the reason why we're having so many people having this struggle, Black folks, between, being true to themselves and being true to what's being shown mainstream, is because what's being shown mainstream that is Black, a lot of people don't want to deal with that. A lot of people don't want to, deal with Black people selling drugs, killing each other, so on and so forth. That's all they're showing us. We want to see real history. What did we do besides this? Is our history only slavery, Jim Crow, civil rights, killing each other? And that's a big thing. And it's one of the reasons why Christians shy away from the truth. They believe that we are savages. I have had many talks with Black Christians who just think we ain't did nothing because they haven't seen anything. They don't know about the real history of this country. They don't understand what's been taken away from us and used to give us what we see today. And that the people who are in charge of, allowing certain movies or TV shows to be aired are the very people who don't want you to understand, your history, who you are, and the truth. So we don't get movies about the kingdoms in Africa. We don't get movies about what really happened. We don't get movies about the revolt in Denmark. I talked about this in Powers That Be, about the Queen, and call herself Queen Mary, and she led basically a revolt against, what was happening in Denmark with, slavery and everything. But this is something that triggered people looking into the history of, Europe and those countries and the Black royal families and so on and so forth. And I talked about in the video as well how we had Black royal families in, Europe that was basically, married into and taken over eventually. So it's a lot more into this stuff, but this is the history that we're not going to see. This is the history that they want to hide, because of course, if you're going to accept a history that's being told to you by the same people that enslaved you, that has oppressed you, then you're going to accept the lie. And this is what people are believing right now, is these lies. This is what we get. And then we, as conscious people, we have to argue with our own people. I'm constantly arguing with my own people to accept the truth about themselves and to accept something that makes them look, sophisticated, intelligent. They want to accept something that makes them look weak. And the Bible teaches us to basically accept mediocrity, to accept poverty, to be proud of being poor. And the very people that gave us the book, the richest people on the planet. So that's one of the things this video is about, and getting people to understand how this came about and the history behind it. Now, everybody knows, well, obviously everybody don't know how we got the Bible. So more learned Christians will tell you, we already had the Bible before slavery. We had it in Ethiopia. What they don't understand is that even with the Abba Bible, because that's the Bible that we got in Ethiopia that was given to us by Abba, who was a Byzantine royal white man who spoke Ge'ez and wrote Ge'ez and translated the Ethiopian Bible, which bears his name, translated it from a Greek Bible. So it still comes from Greek. And we get this book, and they basically adopted the monastery in Ethiopia, and the book still is there to this day. But we have to understand where it came from and understand the history of that area and what was going on with Rome coming in there and stealing stuff and leaving with artifacts. You can go into the Aksum Empire and you'll see that they had Christian stuff there as well. But you got to understand what happened with the Aksum Empire and with Haile Selassie and the Romans. And the Romans came and stole stuff, and they came and took, and they came and tried to force Christianity to get people to convert. And this is something that they have been doing for a long time. So even when you go back and you look at the Black warrior families, look at this time period, there was this revolt, there was this changing, and it was something that was, orchestrated by Rome, of course. So you had everybody convert to Christianity, Islam as well, which was used to basically get people to convert into Christianity, because if you dig into the history, you'll see that, Islam was considered this Arab barbaric religion that stole from Christianity, which they don't get into this stuff right now. And it's more like peace now, but really the history behind it shows what it was. And of course, white folks in Europe wanted to basically be on the side of Rome, and they felt like the Crusades was just, and that Rome was going out to basically claim the land or, set things in motion before the Arabs did. Because you have to remember, we had a whole Arab invasion. Everybody knew about this. People were scared to death. And if you're not thinking about the times back then and doing the research, you're not going to understand why this makes sense. If you have these people going around killing, pillaging, and you create this false narrative about them, if you're not Christian, it's going to be a problem. It's a fight for our souls. And this is how they made it to be. So people were converting. So you had the people being loyal to Christianity. And if you were in trade, this is who they wanted you to trade with. Are they going to trade with the Muslims? Are they going to trade with the Christians? There's more Christians trading. We need you to trade with the Christians, and your kingdom needs to be Christian, because nobody's going to want to come in there and trade with you and make you money. If it's not, people are going to be scared. So people are under this notion that Africa, we had the Bible for all time since the beginning. And that's just not true. So again, gave you guys the history of how this came about, and everything always starts with the Greeks, because you have to just do simple math and understand around this time frame the Greeks were ruling. And that's the Old Testament. We get the Old Testament. And then, or the Torah, or the Pentateuch, whatever you want to call it. So Greeks ruling, right? Rome comes, conquers the Greeks. Shortly after, we get what? Christianity. And then Christianity, basically under Rome, they continue Hellenization, which was the spreading of this doctrine and teaching. Then we get Christianity, and they continue Hellenization, or continue this pushing of this doctrine that begins with the Greeks. It's clear, it's obvious what happened, and how people can't put this together is crazy. But if you understand history, then you get it. You understand what took place. And then you look at, further history and understand that, of course, ancient Egypt was Black. And as I talk about, they were conquered. These are the people who were considered the first Jews. And if you go back during that time, when you do real deep research and look, this is why we find all of those, the Black Madonna, the portraits of Black saints and Black bishops and so on and so forth throughout Rome, because it was Black land, Black territory. We know about the Etruscans, or the Etruscans, however you want to pronounce it, and their rule and what happened, how, they was overthrown. So the history is there. But we didn't get this Bible because we were just the original people, the original Jews, and we got it straight from, Moses and the Levites or what have you. This was basically forced on us. It was given to us. You had indoctrination through generational indoctrination to where the kids were taught this and they was grown up or grew up to preach it, to teach it. And people set out to teach this word that were black until the Crusades. The Crusades is basically like execute Order 66, plain and simple. And when you understand this, when you do the history, you know what happened. You can see it. It was just like Star Wars. Execute Order 66, where you had basically the Moors. You had these black saints and Christians going out teaching the word. And then when the Crusades was put together, they used their Arab powers, the people who were basically made Muslim. And it's a different type of Islam back then. But you had most of them, when I showed you guys this, how you had Arabs in the Knights Templar. You had Arabs in fighting the Crusades, because that's who did the dirty work for Rome, just like they're still using them to this day, the powers that be. But it was execute Order 66, and they went out, killed the real Moors, killed the black, bishops and people who had temples, and it just destroyed everything and got rid of all knowledge and history that it was us, plain and simple. Then everything switched over, and you start seeing the white Jesus and so on and so forth. So if you don't do history, traveled all over the world, been to every country in the Bible, if you don't look at this stuff, you don't read books and don't buy books that cost hundreds of dollars that have a lot of information in it, you're not going to get the story. You're going to get out what's been put out there and regurgitated over and over again to give you a false understanding. And this is what has happened to so many people. Now, it gets frustrating, of course, when you try to talk to Christians and talk to people about this history and about this information. They don't want to hear it. People generally don't accept any information unless it comes from their local news media. If it's not trending, if the news is not talking about it, they're not going to be accepting of it, because they've been trained to, accept what's been put out. So, I always tell people, you can show people my channel, but I like for people to find my channel. For people who find this information, it's people who are looking for it. If they're not looking for it, they probably don't want it. Now, it's people who you run into, you have conversations with, and then if you're knowledgeable, you start talking to them and putting out this information, and they just be blown away and they want to know more. So it's good to speak to people sometimes, but if a person is not, asking questions, they don't seem engaged in this type of information, they probably don't want it. They want to stick to what's popular and what they've been raised to believe about Christianity. But in fact, the truth is exactly what we say it is. So most Christians don't fathom, we got the Bible during slavery. Before that, we got it because they needed to teach it to our people so they could infiltrate our land and find out what resources was there so they can take it. Look in Africa, people. This is not something that we make up. How is it that in developed parts of Africa, we don't own, the major resources, but it's being siphoned and the country is being milked of its resources by Europeans and now by the, Chinese and Asian companies. So this has been happening since the beginning. So they came in and gave us religion, and we know what happened. But you just go and look and see who's there, what's going on, what's taking place, and how these people, ever since they started putting out and teaching the Bible, have not followed the Bible themselves. One of the reasons why, you look into the Bible, and remember, Moses comes down and gives them the law and don't worship any other gods. They broke that. The main thing is how the Bible says thou shalt not kill or steal, and he gives them these commandments. Then God commands them to go do that very thing, and they go out and kill and steal. So if you following this, and if you believe in this story and this information, then you look past the fact that the Greeks, the Romans, the people who are responsible for giving us biblical religion, did everything against the Bible. They went out and they stole, they raped, they pillaged, they killed, so on and so forth. And people believing that they're somehow on this spiritual journey to cleanse the world of some type of evil that was here and to put in place God's kingdom, or to set up for God's kingdom to come. and it's all prophesied and holy and so on and so forth. And it's bullshit. So when you have Deuteronomy 28 talking about how we're not going to own anything, how so much is going to happen, to the Jews if they don't obey God, the whole Deuteronomy 28 curse. But it says, Deuteronomy 28:43, foreigners who live in your land will gain more and more power, while you gradually lose yours. They will have money to lend you, but you will have none to lend them. In the end, they will be your rulers. And it basically goes on to talk about all the disasters and everything that will befall them because they did not obey the Lord and keep all the laws that he gave them. So to many people, mainly the Black Hebrews, this was a prophecy come true because we look at what happened. They were strangers in our land. We let them in, took care of them. Then they gained power, and then they eventually took over, and then now they basically are rulers. So, of course, you're looking at this and you're saying, well, damn, the Black Hebrews are right. Well, what they did was tell you their plan and lay out a plan that they knew was going to happen because they know stuff that we don't. And they knew once they destabilized certain kingdoms and got rid of certain kingdoms, remember, when these people got their hands on the gun and cannon, we stood no chance.